Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. This is Cam, Stoic Soldier. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Hope everyone's having a great day. Hope y'all have had a great week already so far. So, jumping right into a video of the week. By the way, I'm wearing a white t-shirt today. I figured I'd change it up. Jumping right into it today. Um, no matter what philosophy you're talking about, no matter what mission you're trying to accomplish, whether you're trying to get something done, get to a certain destination, reach a certain plateau in your life, or simply just improve yourself, reach either a physical goal or a personal goal as far as developing and building your character goes. One of the most important things, if not probably the most important thing, is discipline. At the end of the day, we always think motivation is the first thing that drives us. I myself have had that notion for years, and thinking that if everyone has this misconception of the law of attraction, thinking that if you just simply want something bad enough that it's going to happen. First off, that's not exactly the way that it works. Second, and more importantly, not only is there more intricate detail to it, but it also comes down to being able to control several other things within yourself first and foremost, and control your reaction to things around you, as we've talked about numerous times in the past. So no matter how badly we may want something, sometimes it's in the moment, sometimes it may even be long term, there are going to be trials and tribulations that come along your way. And a lot of times that ends up changing. So let's say that you want to go to medical school, for example, you want to become a doctor, you want to become a surgeon, whatever. And you see how, even though you were fascinated by the idea of it, you see how tedious it is. You see how tumultuous the journey is. You see just how long and arduous of a process it is just early on. Forget about the long run. And then next thing you know, you start questioning, you start thinking to yourself, is this actually what I want? You start replaying that original fantasy in your head and asking yourself, do I still feel the same way about this now? That's perfectly okay to ask yourself that. This is what life is about. I mean, not every single journey is going to necessarily be a straight line, and nothing lasts forever. Even though we do come back to certain things sooner or later, everyone's evolution is different. Sometimes we outgrow things and then we come back to them, and then we outgrow them again and then we come back to them again. There's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, you want to make sure that whatever mission you're trying to accomplish, whatever goal you're trying to reach, that it is something that you want to do in the long run. And at the very least, making sure that you're picking up and holding important lessons that come with it. You're taking those to heart. You're applying them in your everyday life. You're picking up lessons along these journeys, along these paths that you embark on, that are gonna somehow contribute to the next phase or the next chapter in your life, depending on whatever else you decide to transition into. And just really thinking as universal as possible. The idea of not just simply perseverance, but mindfulness, being aware as you're going along your journey, not just going from checkpoint A to checkpoint B, but also even in the middle of it, keeping in mind things that you feel, keeping in mind that there are going to be challenges, there are going to be speed bumps along the road that you may or may not have been prepared for, but still being honest with yourself as to whether or not this is something that you do in fact want, that this is something that is your sole ambition and your desire. And then most importantly, again, going back to discipline, that's when you know for a fact that you've committed to something. Now, what is commitment? Commitment doesn't mean that you're just necessarily always going head down, balls to the wall, and you're not going to let anything stop you without even taking a moment's notice to think about what's happening around you. That's not what it means. What commitment really translates to is that you've confirmed with yourself that what you're doing is in fact what you want. Commitment really just means that I've hit the confirmation that this is the order that I want to send out to the universe, and I want us to make this happen. I want this to become a reality. This is my wish right here, so I'm sending it in. Now, with that commitment is going to come discipline. So again, that applies universally. This is something that you take with you through just about any journey that you can imagine. Whether you're trying to go to school for something, whether you're trying to start a business, or even if you just want to fix some character flaws within yourself, as we all have. I do, you do, we all do. And we're always going to have that. There's no such thing as anyone or anything being perfect, as we talked about. But there are always ways to improve or to remedy the situation and or yourself. There's always something you can do to make it better. Is it going to be flawless? No, not in a million years. But it is those flaws, those imperfections that make us who we are. Again, we are an extension of the universe. We are a creation of the universe itself. The universe is by no means perfect, but it is aligned, and that in itself, alignment, that divinity, that is perfection right there. However, that doesn't change the fact that there are things about ourselves that we can still improve on. So, thinking to yourself that just by being motivated that it's going to happen, you might be on it strong for 1 or 2 days, and then all of a sudden you slip off or you fall off. I'll never forget to myself, one of the first tests that I ever did when I started training martial arts, I think this was actually my first test. The speech that the headmaster of the school gave us, I will never forget to this day. Motivation versus discipline. One is temporary and strictly out of emotion. One is a long-term commitment. That means that every day you're reconfirming with yourself that this is what you want, and no matter what, even if you're not feeling up to it, even if you don't feel that same kind of drive that you did the day before, that you're still going to push yourself to do what you have to do. You still ultimately have a mission. So you think to yourself, a one-time impulse versus a long-term purpose. For example, maybe you think to yourself, I want to make money and have a nice life for myself. I want to be able to have my own place. I want to be able to have my own car. I want to be able to have my own business, what have you. At that point, that's when discipline comes into play, because you're restraining yourself from impulse of going out and just splurging at the bar, going to clubs, going to Vegas and gambling, maybe, so anything along those lines. But something along the lines of ambition is you're just throwing money and investing in something, and you think maybe it could work, maybe it doesn't work, but there's no actual strategic planning behind it. You haven't really thought it through. With discipline, there's a well-strategized mindset that comes with it, something that you've thought over and over and over again. Again, not to the point to analysis paralysis to where you just drive yourself up the wall, but enough to the point where you've weighed out all the pros and cons, and you are in fact sure to yourself that this is going to be as minimal risk as you could possibly make it, but it is in fact who you are and what you want to be. And then at that point, you're not going to let anything stand in the way of that. So you want to be a pro athlete also, for example. You want to be a CrossFit trainer. You want to be a marathon runner. Discipline comes in when those old impulses of maybe the old you, whoever you used to be before you decided you wanted to do this and embark on something greater. And again, you've thought it over and over again. It wasn't just a one-time thing of, oh, that looks cool, and then 2 days later you're right back to your same self. This is something that's really been burning inside you. You don't just feel it in your gut, you feel it in your bones, you feel it in your whole body. At that point, you start reassessing your diet choices. You start reassessing the way you train on a day-to-day basis, how much, how hard, and then also how smart you train, how diligent you're being with your body. Weighing out your decisions day in and day out. Still maintaining that passion, maintaining that ambition, but allowing your mind, allowing your brain to work with it as a team. Just as the Karate Kid saying goes, I love this one, knowledge without ambition, ambition without knowledge is like a boat on dry land. So motivation, passion, inspiration, without discipline, without the right mindset, without the willingness to commit to whatever strategy that you have to resort to in order to get yourself to that destination is the equivalent to that. That's not going to do anything. You can have all the passion in the world, but when you don't have any precision, It's like having a bow and arrow and trying to aim for the bullseye, but you're not bothering to see where exactly that red dot is. So you need to think of your goals and your ambitions and your missions as the exact same thing. You need to have that sense of precision, knowing what your target is, asking yourself, how can I make this more accurate? How can I have minimal effort with maximum results, but still working to improve myself constantly? So that's something I want you guys to think about. Even if it's something short term, still having a little bit of discipline. As a matter of fact, that's actually not a bad idea at all. That's actually one of the best things that I personally have found has worked, is starting with short-term goals before you overcommit yourself to something long-term, seeing what your threshold is as far as staying on track with something and not falling off. Like, let's say you want to lose 10 pounds within a month. Instead of thinking, oh, I want to be a CrossFit trainer for the rest of my life, or I want to be a power lifter, I want to do a full-on Ironman. Start with something simple. Start with something that you know for the time being is doable. Because again, everything is possible at a certain point. It's just all about timing. This is not possible yet. This has not happened yet. I can't do this yet. Yet is always neglected. Everything that we thought could not happen is all here now. So it's just about you getting comfortable with committing, developing that confidence through these obstacles, knowing that you can conquer one or two things at a time, and then you optimize. It's just like when you're in the gym. You add more weights the more comfortable you feel. Once you feel that you can do 10, 12 reps with a couple of the small plates, then add the medium plates, then add the large plates. And then you just level up and level up from there. But you never forget to go back to those basics. You never forget what you learned in those fundamentals. And then every once in a while, revisit them. It's okay. And if anything, it's a necessity. You have to. Because if you neglect those basics, especially way down the line when you feel that you've mastered everything, because there's really no such thing as fully mastering anything, that's when you're going to find yourself between a rock and a hard place. So start short term, increase as you go along, use that exercise as a means of giving yourself confidence and knowing that you have discipline, that you can develop discipline and bettering it. Cool. So that's all the time that we have for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week. Take care.